Hi there, welcome to Homekeepers. Hey, grab yourself a cup of tea, will you do that? And just stay with us for the next few minutes. You will not regret it. And I'd like to take just a second to welcome all those who've never seen the program before, and there you are. You know what? You're an answer to prayer, because I often pray that the Lord will give us new viewers. I believe He does that every single day. And also to you precious, precious people who've been with us a long time, please know you are loved. And we have a wonderful guest today. And just meeting him a few minutes ago, there's so much to talk to him about. But the main reason he's here is to talk about a book he wrote called Game Changer. And he is an Episcopal priest along with a lot of other titles. And you'll find very, very interesting. This is Game Changer, How to Find a Championship Love. I believe that is the heart's cry of every human being on earth. So we will delve into this book, a very fine book, by the way. And I'm going to join Stephanie. We're going to put together an Amish casserole. Now, we've done casseroles before, but when you put the word Amish on it, it's just probably a notch above others. This thing has everything in it, and maybe I should make a promise, no more casseroles for a while. But this one was really outstanding. So we'll make it. If you want the recipe, we'll get it to you. Before I join her, though, I again want to offer you this darling, beautiful, beautiful, colorful cross bracelet. It will go with anything. It will go with your very best, you know, your Sunday best. And it will also look good with your jeans and sports and that kind of thing. And we'll send it to you for that gift of at least $19 to the program. I just kind of guarantee you're going to love it. You can write to us at Homekeepers, Box 6922, Clearwater, Florida, 33758. Or if, like most people, you use credit cards, debit cards for everything, 1-800-229-0059. And I'm over here with Stephanie, and it smells good. You know, most people don't use cash at all anymore, so or write checks.
Mm-hmm.
Or, so. Do you? Do you write checks?
Like where?
Well, when I was reading that,
it smells so good in here. You know, nobody around here uses cash
didn't want to
anymore.
lose
I'm
that
like,
thought.
where are you going?
Do you write checks?
I don't really write checks anymore, and right now I think I have 75 cents in my purse.
Oh my!
Yeah.
Well,
I don't carry cash. I don't write checks. I'm a little too dependent probably on my debit card.
Yeah, your generation, and then the next generation, like my grandsons. I don't know if they've ever
It's
seen
all
a
direct
$10
everything.
bill. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, now.
Okay, food.
I'll tell you what, it's smelling good now.
Yeah. It's bacon and onions. Yummy.
And it's powerful.
Yeah.
I suppose these need to be.
Yes, if you could whisk those, that's 6 eggs. I'm going to turn these off. This is just a bacon and some onions that we've sauteed. And then we are going to take...
Well, I told you before, speaking of the Amish, I spoke... What do you want me to do?
You can spray the pan.
Okay.
Thanks.
I spoke for a big singles thing in Ohio, but the campground was right next to a big Amish settlement. And we didn't care for the camp food, so the gal who entertained me, we went a few miles away to this Amish restaurant. And I'm telling you, it was delicious, but don't kid yourself, there's nothing that's low calorie.
Oh,
nothing.
no.
This will just...
This is not a low calorie
Just eat
meal.
a little bit of it.
Yeah, so we have eggs, we have cheddar cheese, we have...
That's Swiss cheese.
Swiss cheese. Now we have one element that's good for you.
What's
we
that?
have cottage cheese. We have
You know, the cottage cheese kind of surprised me.
Yeah. Well, you know, I use cottage cheese in my lasagna instead of the ricotta, and it's really good and less expensive. And then I have 4 cups of frozen hash browns.
Yep.
We're going to mix this all together.
Boy, whoever thought of those frozen potatoes did humanity a real favor.
Yes, and then I'm going to put in the bacon and the onion. It smells delicious.
I think this would be a winner at your church dinner, you know, when you're trying to impress all the other sisters.
Yes.
And
the others. Yeah. It's my goal.
Trust me, that's the goal of a lot of them.
Now, if you want to impress your church sisters, bring a yummy dessert. No.
Yeah. Well, but really, this is a little over the top. We've got to admit it, but this is a meal.
Oh, for sure.
You just add a little salad, little green salad.
Yeah.
You got it.
So get it.
You got it.
You get it. And so this is just a sprayed pan. You put it in the sprayed pan and you bake it. Mm-hmm. Super easy. And this is one of those things you can make ahead of time. Mm-hmm. Make a couple of them in the silver throwaway pans.
And you freeze it.
Freeze it up. Uh-huh. Then you have it for breakfast. You have it for dinner. You have it for anything you need.
Now, I think I've noticed your pattern on Friday mornings, sometimes you go do all your shopping even before you get to the office.
I do.
And she gets to the office very early.
The store opens at 7. I'm usually grocery shopping. I have it put away and I'm at work by 8:45. And then I'm done. I don't have to worry about it for the rest of the week.
She is a very organized person.
I try to be organized, not always.
Well, you do pretty good.
So you just bake this, and then it comes out to that yumminess right there.
I told she organizes all the meals for us at telethon time. Everybody loves you then, girl.
I am a favorite at telethon. I may not be a favorite the rest of the year, but I am a favorite.
Nothing wrong with that.
All those different cheeses.
You know, it just tastes like a great big good breakfast plate.
Yes.
Got your eggs and your bacon and your potatoes, and it's very good.
It's delicious.
And it's called
Amish.
An Amish breakfast casserole. And we'll send it to you, no cost whatsoever. That information will be coming up on your screen, and it's on Pinterest too. Eventually, you can email us, write to us, no cost. We'll get it to you. Now, I want you to meet Jabriel. You're going to love him, promise you.
If you would like a copy of today's recipe, just write to the address on your screen, or you can email your request to arthelene@rippy.org.
All right, my new best friend, Jabriel Ballentine, is a rector at the Episcopal Church of St. John in John the Baptist in Orlando. He holds a master's degree from Virginia Theological Seminary, a bachelor's degree from the University of Maryland, co-host of Racial Heresy, a monthly program about racial reconciliation and Christian theology. I'd like to hear that.
Oh man, yeah. We have a raucous time, and it's all about inviting people into those difficult conversations that we have across color lines. And I think it's imperative at this time, when we see what's going on in our country, to be able to explore one another in a safe space where we're neither offending nor being offended, but actually coming to some reconciliation, which is the gospel call.
Yeah, the word that grabbed me was heresy.
Yeah, because my co-host and I, Case Ramey, who's a priest in Virginia, we believe that we have some established racial doctrines in our society, that this is the way things are supposed to be when they come about race. And we say we want people to be heretical about those. We want people to turn those doctrines upside down and say that they're not going to divide us anymore.
Yeah, because some people, it's a living.
Yeah. They make a living off of that. I say a lot of times that if racism was solved, a lot of people would be out of work. So there's a lot invested in these established doctrines, and our job is to overturn them.
You told me a story that I really want you to tell the audience, because as delightful as it is, it's so true. And that's the care, and you might say the minutia of raising your son in great detail. And how it was actually kind of put down at the school.
Oh yeah, I was saying earlier about just doing our best to raise our child with good manners. You know, to say yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, and those kinds of things. And it's always interesting, as we were talking backstage about the deterioration of society, how, you know, we go to school and teachers will say, oh, no, you don't have to call me ma'am. No, please, do not undo the hard work that I've done. It took a long time to ingrain these manners into him. So, you know, I want to keep them for a while.
Yeah, so you have to tell the teacher, you know, knock it off.
Right.
This is, yeah.
Right, yeah, right, exactly.
That's just a tiny, tiny insight and story into what's happened to our nation.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, you know, and you know, we talk about, of course, my book, we use sports analogies a lot to talk about relationships. I tell people all the time, I could preach about baseball. I love baseball. And I say, if you look at it, even though we had all sorts of problems, you know, women couldn't vote, blacks couldn't go through the right doors, and so on and so forth. But when baseball was America's pastime, our country, our culture was a lot more civilized. It's funny when other sports took over.
It made some things right.
Yeah, you know, baseball is one of those sports where, you know, I don't have to be mad at you to be on the opposing team. You know, I don't have to put you down. I can be on first base and talk to you and ask you how the wife and the kids are doing. It's a congenial sport. And there's a lot that we can learn from sport, and there's a lot we can learn from life. Everything communicates the beauty of God.
Also, you mentioned to me, as we're making this program, we're in the most insane presidential election I've ever seen. And how, with your partners in the priesthood and all that, only the gospel, only the church can ever make this right.
Oh, yeah, it has to be the church. I mean, what can make sense of this society? What can make sense of anything but Jesus Christ? You know? And so, for too long, I think our church, and when I say church, I mean universal.
Right.
Our church has been on the sidelines of issues, afraid to call things out and say, you know, this is what it should be as according to the gospel, or this is what it should not be as according to the gospel. And we see what happens when the church kind of takes a laissez-faire approach to society and to social life.
Boy, I pray it's just this giant sleeping bear or something is going to, you know, wake up and shake itself.
That's the beauty of the body of Christ, you know. On that great getting up morning, as we're in the Easter season, when the body rose, when he rose from the grave, it didn't take nothing but a moment for all things to be made right. And so as soon as the church wakes up.
And the church needs to quit taking signals from culture. It's supposed to be the other way around.
Right. And that's been our bent, is that, you know, rather than us culture conforming to God, we've tried to make God conform to culture. And a lot of that, you know, first and foremost, deterioration happens in relationships, where we look at what it is that God wants from us, how God calls us to be one with one another. Rather than doing that, we're trying to make God conform to our ideas on how we should relate with one another.
We need a politically correct God.
Mercy.
Help us, Lord. All right, Game Changer, I love the name.
Thank you.
And also how to have a championship love. I really think that's the heart cry of every human being.
Yeah. You know, that's the only thing in creation that God said was not good. Created everything, it was good, it was good, it was good. Got to man, it was like, it is not good for man to be alone. You know, and so that is the cry, the heart cry, is that, you know, we can be one, that we can find that place, that person where we can be our authentic selves, where we can let our hair down, where we can be who it is that we are in the fullness of all the quirkiness, of all the ugliness, of all the spots and the blemishes, and know that we are loved. The same way we should know that God loves us. But we don't find that in relationship, and that's why so many people are having a hard time, because we're playing this game where I can't show you who I am at first.
Within a marriage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now, you're a married man.
Yes, thanks be to God.
Is this some kind of a autobiography? Or?
You know, people tell me I'm very abstract, so it is an abstract autobiography. I do go into some details of my own relationship journey, but that's exactly where it came from, my own struggles. I had been married and divorced and thought that I had, and as a single dad, and thought that I had come to a place where, you know, I'm irredeemable. You know, no one would love me. I'm too messed up, you know, but thanks be to God, I still never gave up on this whole idea of love, and continue to try and, in retrospect, learn some things through my own falls, but also through, thanks be to God, finding my wife now, who've been married for 3 years, this woman that is so amazingly beautiful, and she's gorgeous, by the way, but so amazingly beautiful beyond skin deep that even my mother said, boy, you better get your together so you can marry this woman.
Mama's usually right about those things. Okay, we're talking about a game and a championship. That suggests competition to me.
Yeah.
So is there competition within this union, within these two people?
There is competition, not within the union, though. You see, that's how we typically look at relationship. I tell people, as I use this sports metaphor, that men and women line up on opposite sides of the ball, and then when the whistle blows, we start pounding each other, trying to subdue each other, rather than looking at it from how a team comes together. And we're coming together to form a championship team. Now, the competition is the enemy, and those forces that try to destroy a marriage, that try to break up a family. And our goal is to win the championship, which is a love that is everlasting. Yeah, so there is competition, but not between me and you if we're in a relationship, you know? It's between us and those forces that would try to destroy our relationship.
I'm trying to think of a metaphor, maybe a garden or something. I'm thinking of someone I know right now. The marriage needs to be tended to, it's going to be in trouble.
Amen.
Highly successful people. But what in the world would be the percentage of people who do not tend to their marriage? They're just in the everyday and the stresses and this has to be done and that has to be done. And this marriage is in trouble, but they don't really realize that they're not tending the garden.
Yeah, and that is the game changer, right? That shift of perspective that understands that a marriage is work, you know? Thanks be to God, it's beautiful work, it's blessed work, but it is indeed work. And many times, myself included, when I first approached marriage, you know, you see all the glitz and the glamour of it, and your parents never let you behind the veil. You just see that they're happy, and you think just by magic it's going to come like that. But when we go into it with the perspective that it needs to be tended to, we have a much better chance at it. We have a much better time with it. It's a lot more fun. Yeah. And so it's understanding, helping that couple to understand that everything takes tending. That garden analogy is beautiful. If you want to have flowers, you can't just plant the seeds and walk away. You got to tend to them. My grandmother would spend time talking with plants. Really? And I thought she was crazy.
I'll bet she grew some gorgeous stuff.
Beautiful. She has an amazing garden. And but I always thought she was nuts. She would come home and she would say, "Hey, I'm home." And she would, you know, but she would let me know. She broke it down scientifically. The plants need CO2. And I exhale CO2, so by talking to them, I'm tending to them.
Boy, only on Homekeepers you learn this kind of thing. I'm glad you came. If you just tuned in, I am talking to Jabriel Ballentine, who has a lot of talents, but he is an Episcopal priest. The website is on the screen, and you can get the book from there. I'm sure Amazon, and the name of the book's Game Changer. And it's, boy, it's got a lot of insight. I've read a lot of books on marriage, but I think you've got a really fresh way of writing, a fresh approach. Oh, congratulations.
Thanks to God.
Yeah. You even go into that bad word, submission. That's a bad one.
Yeah.
And as someone who grew up in the evangelical charismatic world, there was more preaching on wives submit than there should be equal on husbands, love your wives as Christ loves the church.
Right, indeed.
And so there wasn't a balance there, and I think that had, you know, just kind of kicked off a little rebellion.
Oh, yeah.
Women.
Yeah, that's a lot of rebellion in women and a lot of abdication amongst men. You know, I tell women all the time, once you've spoken with me, you'll love submission, because what you understand is I believe that not only should there be a balance, but it almost should be the scale should be tipped in the opposite direction, because love is the greater responsibility. You know, if you look at that whole passage, Paul spends a little bit of time on women submit to your husbands. He spends a lot of time on husbands love your wife as Christ loves the church. And I tell women, if you knew without a doubt that your husband had as his sole focus to love you in such a way that when you die, whether it be before him or after him, you would walk right into the kingdom of God, because he has presented you unto God as a church without blemish, without spot. That as his sole focus, yeah, you'll submit to him.
What an analogy. No problem. Bring him on.
Or exactly.
Yeah, that is a beautiful analogy.
Yeah, but that's not what's being explained, you know, and too many of people in my ilk, pastors, have not explained that and emphasized, you know, men love to hear wives submit to your husband, because that makes you think you can come home and pat and turn and never lift a finger.
Oh, I've heard it preached that if they told you to go jump off the Skyway Bridge, you should.
Mercy.
Oh yeah, just ridiculous. First place, you would obey or submit in the Lord.
Right.
Right there, we'd put a little bit of a disclaimer, maybe.
An important caveat there, you know, but that husbands love your wives, that is a strong commandment as Christ loves the church and gave himself up for her. I tell people, and I say in the book, that every marriage is a little funeral, because a husband is pledging himself to give himself up in the same way that Christ did, which means nailing himself to the cross for the sake of his wife.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in that area, the church has really failed the men.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because not only has it been abusive to women, but it has been a disservice to the man, because the man is not equipped with the knowledge to be able to do the job that God has given him to do.
And you also think how wonderful and yet how humbling that this union is that perfect illustration here on earth of Christ and the church. That's huge.
Oh, yeah. And to think that God would allow for you and I to share in that revelation. You know, that's the great mystery. When Paul says the mystery I speak is of Christ and his church, you know, that we can bear witness to that by the way that we love and submit to one another is an awesome thing.
Yeah. Now you go into a little bit of practical things. And how do you set this up? Like, okay, who takes out the trash, or who pays the bills, and all those things that make life happen. You have to do them.
Oh yeah, you know, and that's the way I say, we confuse the roles of life with the roles of marriage. You know, and so, you know, men think that the women are supposed to clean up the house and tend to the kids and cook the food, and the women think that the men are supposed to take out the trash and cut the grass and so on and so forth. But the reality is, when either one of us were single, we had to do all of those things. I had to cook. I had to clean. You know, I had to tend to the child. You know, my wife had to, you know, when she was single, had to get the laundry fixed, had to get the sink fixed, and so on and so forth. So the roles of life have to happen regardless of who does them. Who makes the money is not a male role or a female role. It's a role of life. You know, and many times we end up arguing over those things. When
just foolish things.
Yeah. Who cares who does that? You know, if my wife likes to take out the trash more, then she does it. But our son takes out the trash.
And he says, ma'am and sir.
Exactly.
I like him. And boy, I commend you for raising him. Raising him that way.
Thank you.
Marriages break up over things that a lot of times they've just accumulated. They don't really matter. Now, adultery is a big one, and a few things like that. But to allow an anger or some kind of feeling to just grow and grow over trash, it's not worth it.
You know, it's like I say, the fall of humanity came, and when the fall happened, Adam and Eve realized that they were naked and they were ashamed. That's the fall, to be naked and ashamed. In the redemption that is offered to us by Jesus Christ, the goal is to be naked and unashamed. But for too often in relationship, we're afraid to let the other person know how we feel about something. And so we guard it and we hold on to it, and we don't reveal that we really don't like what you did. And we think it's keeping the peace, But eventually it builds like a wound that's unattended to. It festers and it boils. And now all of a sudden you got this big sword that if one little tiny prick touches
Boom.
it, boom, you got, World War III,
Yeah, I remember Gloria Gaither, great songwriter of the church, and I've had the privilege to interview her a few times, and one time she said, the problem is, what's the problem?
Right.
You think this is it, and it doesn't resemble the real problem.
Right. Right. So it's taken the time, and husbands have a difficult time with this. You know, I talk about being a provider, being a provisionary, is to see before, to see the landscape in such a way that you identify that there's something wrong, and don't do the typical thing, which is, I'm a retreat, but to draw it out. Honey, what's wrong? She says nothing, or he says nothing. No, I can tell something is wrong. We need to talk about it. What's wrong?
Isn't that awfully hard for the American male?
Oh, yeah.
Women, and we might not do it right, but we do it.
Exactly.
Might make it worse,
Exactly. So it's learning to be in that vulnerable space and to share with one another religiously, to develop habits of sharing when there's nothing wrong, to just have your regular touch point so that when there is something wrong, you're already comfortable in that space of sharing.
Well, I just wonder what the percentage of marriages exists, and I think, of course, of the United States, where there's too much fear, that ability to really be transparent with your mate.
Yeah, and we see that spill out throughout all of society. This is why I say, we build a better church, we build a better society when we build a better marriage, when we build a better family, because those ripples, when you drop a pebble in the lake, it starts from the central point and it ripples out. So we start from the central point, which is the husband and wife, and as we repair that relationship, it ripples out throughout society, and we start to see the change all over.
That's the reason for Homekeepers.
Yeah.
And I like the name. I think the Lord gave it to me.
Amen.
It's not housekeeping or anything.
Right.
Homekeepers. We need keepers of the home. We need to, and I like the term gatekeepers. There's someone there at the gate of the home, just keeping a lot of this world stuff out.
Right.
And that you're united in Jesus Christ to build a home with a solid foundation. That's what's going to change the nation.
Oh yeah, and that's that team mentality that we're talking about. That I have a job, you have a job. We'll agree on what that job is. Maybe the husband is the homekeeper sometimes. But in either case, we have a job and we have a goal, and there's a charge that we have to keep, and we do that together so that we can achieve a championship.
Telling you, the time goes by so fast. I've been talking with Jabriel Ballentine, and he is Episcopal priest, among a lot of other titles, and the author of this book. We've had the website up. I hope you'll go there. You can get it on Amazon, and the name is Game Changer. That should be very, very easy for you to remember. But pastors, you ought to think about getting this book. We're out of time, but I'm sure you believe in premarital counseling.
Oh, amen.
There's some good information in here. Sunday school teachers, even youth leaders, I think this would be good for you. But we are out of time, so please join me next time, remembering there's no higher calling than that of a homekeeper. God bless you.
Amen.
If you should miss a Homekeepers program, you can catch up by going to www.ctnonline.com. Click on CTN Programs and then on Homekeepers.